So if we go back to the beginning, David, when you were 18, I've read that you were living in a bus shelter. Can you tell us more about that and how that transpired into you owning your own
Yeah, I mean,
business?
not recommended. Although it's quite character building, I have to say. But yeah, so when I was, I had a pretty normal life, amazing parents. And then sadly, when I was 16, literally overnight, my father passed away. And kind of life definitely changed for me and my mum. My mum went off to Portugal. So I was kind of living here in the UK on my own from, late 16, early 17. And I've always had this desire to work, and Volkswagen Audi, who used to have their headquarters in Milton Keynes at Blakelands, I actually went to the opening of that warehouse in 1978 when VW moved to the UK, because my dad was part of VW Audi. So I'd grown up and knew I wanted to work in the warehouse, and I was staying with my nan, and the only way I could work shifts was to sleep in the bus shelter, because there was no way of getting. I didn't have a car, I couldn't afford a car. I tried cycling at 11 o'clock at night in December. I was never that smart. So I figured there was a stone bus shelter which is now gone, and it was over one of the far corners of the warehouse on the roundabout. And I don't know, it felt safe, so I ended up sleeping rough for quite a bit of time, just because it's the only way I could earn money, which sounds a bit nuts, but it really was the only way I could earn money. So.
And how did that transpire into you owning a business?
Yeah, so I've always been quite entrepreneurial. At school, I had a legal tuck shop, which almost got me expelled from school, and then I sold pirated software as well at school as well. So, and that was the pirated software. I think I was 10 or 11, and the tuck shop was around the same time. So I've always had it in me. Good work ethic. Always worked as a kid. And then I ended up wanting to do a business. I kind of went off to Canada. I went off to New York. Came back from New York. Was working for my sort of first startup then. But I ended up just as you do when you're that age, you want to be your own boss, and working on a couple of projects that were going to be in like technology space. And I look back now and go, how naive was I? Like unbelievably naive. I really thought I knew it all, and I didn't have a clue. So, ended up. I was very lucky that I ended up in New York at 21. Worked for a company called Intellisys that was out of the back of Barclaycard and Chase Manhattan. So living the dream in Manhattan at the age of 21, which was awesome. Not sure we got much work done, but the partying was good. And then Commerce One came along, and I was really fortunate. It was in kind of the same space as Intellisys, in that e-procurement supply chain space, very first of type on the web. And they were based in Walnut Creek in California, just outside San Francisco. And got involved with them very, very, very early. Didn't realize what I was quite walking into, as how big it would be. In fact, the day we IPO'd on July 17th in 1999. And I still remember the lawyer, Jeff, ringing me. And I was in the UK, I was back in the UK, and he said, David, have you got the paperwork, for all your shares? And I was like, oh yeah, in the back of my car somewhere, sort of thing. And he went, I need the paperwork signed today, fax to me right now, because we're IPOing, and you need to, there was some stock that was locked in, some stock that wasn't. In Commerce One, I think we hit the end of the year after 6 months of being on NASDAQ. I think we hit $22 billion market cap. We'd only ever made a profit one quarter, which is ironic to be worth $22 billion. Our burn rate was, I can't remember the number, but it was pretty big. And we had Fortune companies as our clients, and we did some pretty amazing mega stuff. I mean, it was a proper .com, boom type stuff. And then within 3 years, we were chapter 11, 0. So literally can go up.
Wow.
What goes up comes down.
So what was your, obviously in that period of that 3-year period, you were still involved in Commerce One. What were you actually doing for them?
So I actually started with them as a kind of heading up pre-sales and that for Europe, for EMEA. Like most US companies, EMEA tends to outperform the US sometimes, which is much to the dislike of the Americans, but that's usually the way I've seen it. And then, I ended up running professional services for over here in Europe, and it was a weird ride. It was like literally I was kind of living between California, Banbury, and Monaco. That was my life, and Monaco was kind of party home. Banbury was my normal friends who were like brought me back down to ground to earth sort of thing, and it was crazy. I mean, I think in 1 year I racked up 380,000 air miles in 1 year with BA. I mean, I was literally on planes pretty much every day, which wore me down after 3 years. And then all over the world. I mean, it's bad when you know the BA staff on your flights because you do so many flights. I knew how the food would be, what schedule the food was in terms of over a week, knew who the staff were. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I think at one point in Heathrow Airport, I remember I had 3 cars in the business car park with stuff in the back. And so I used to come back and go, oh, right, I'll fly down to Monaco or I'll fly up to Norway to where my girlfriend lives. And it was nuts. It was nuts time. I mean, working from home, which I've kind of championed since the 90s. I remember working from home for me was either Ibiza in Santiago, Monaco. And that was me working from home. Like, I'm working and I'm sort of home. So,
wow. And so the story goes, so 3 years and it's gone. Is that you've lost everything as well? Did you have all of your wealth in?
If you give a 25-year-old quite a lot of money and they haven't got parents around, they're probably going to do some stupid stuff with it. So, I definitely did that. I remember I was joking the other day. I bought my first Ferrari. I always wanted a Ferrari, and I bought my first Ferrari when I was 25. Hungover in a Burger King on the M1, and I said to my friend, "Let's go to the Ferrari dealer in Loughborough." So I bought a 355 and crashed it 2 months later because I just thought I was invincible. It was nuts. It was nuts, and you get all this advice around you because you've got loads of money. And you have all these experts who were really rubbish, as it turns out, at guiding me on how I should spend money. So, not that I would have listened, but when I went personally bankrupt, so I actually ended up personally bankrupt here in the UK. And it was a bit of an eye-opener, actually, because it was a bit like being back in the bus shelter, as I always describe it. Interestingly, it was in Milton Keynes as well. And you're given the tools, and it was when bankruptcy was 3 years, and you were allowed to keep your laptop and some clothes and that, but that's pretty much it. And you can't have credit, and just all that stuff that goes with it. And I have to say, it was quite humbling. The lovely judge who had to bankrupt me because I didn't turn up with a lawyer, he said to me, "You'll do it again. You'll be fine, David. I've got to follow the law because the other people on the other side were being idiots." But he was like, "You'll be fine. You'll go do it again." So I was bust, and it made me a nicer person. I don't think I was particularly nice in my 20s. I think I was quite obnoxious actually. And then it just made me a nicer person. And it's humbling to start again. It's quite when you've done it once, you can do it twice, sort of thing. You can also go busting. Yeah, there is that as well.
Yeah, I mean, failure, I think, also is a word that's not used a lot in the UK. As in, like in America, it's fine. Failure's fine. That's how you learn. But over here, it seems it's more of a stigma attached to it.
Yeah, and even success. So in the US, if you're successful, right, like you buy a Ferrari, you buy a Sunseeker, you live the dream. There's no jealousy. There's zero jealousy. Here in the UK, absolutely the opposite. And a 20-year-old, I remember I collect cars and I'm really into my cars. So I'd have like various cars. And I remember one time in Banbury, I was with a friend and we had the roof off the Ferrari and someone was like, "Oh, Daddy's car." And my mate was like, "No, it's not actually, it's actually his." And then when I crashed it, I remember someone made a comment and my friend Mark Graham turned round to them and said, "Well, at least he can." So, um, but yeah, it's weird. The UK. It's part of the reason I started my career in the US was you want to go get something. There's no stopping you. There's no like, oh, David, maybe, you know, look at this level sort of thing. And I got that really in Canada when I was living with my sister. And there was this real, like, you want to buy that house, because I was very materialistic in my 20s, you know, then this is how you get to it. Whereas the UK, it's like, well, maybe go and buy something else. And I find the US, I'm doing a lot in the US again at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. And the attitude is just, it's let's get stuff done, right? Let's just do it.